낯선 환경에서 시작을 하는데요. 아무쪼록 좋은 시간 되시기 바랍니다. 슬라빅님께서 준비를 한 세션은 생성형 AI의 핵심 트렌드와 비즈니스 혁신이라는 내용으로 준비를 했습니다. 네, 준비한 내용은 다음과 같습니다. 제가 먼저 그 생성형 AI의 주요 니즈와 트렌드의 변화에 대해서 제가 설명을 드리고, 슬라빅님께서 각 기업과 사용자들이 생성형 AI를 실제로 활용하는 데 있어서 도입하는 과정에 따라서 어떻게 접근하면 좋을지, 그리고 시사점은 무엇인지 설명을 드릴 예정입니다. 생성형 AI 기술은 잘 아시는 것처럼 2022년 말에 혜성과 같이 등장을 했습니다. 그 기술 등장 이후에 지금까지도 여전히 많은 기업들이 관심을 많이 가지고 계시고 테스트도 하고 있고 굉장히 그 중요한 기술로 인식을 하고 있는 것 같습니다. 그리고 대부분의 기업들이 그 기술을 이미 테스트를 많이 해보신 것 같아요. 그리고 사용을 하고 있고 또 이러한 새로운 기술을 통해서 비즈니스를 혁신하고 있다라고 믿고 있는 그 가능성을 발견하고 있는 걸로 보이고 있습니다. 잘 아시는 것처럼 그 AWS는 기업과 기관을 상대하는 B2B 비즈니스를 전개를 하고 있습니다. 따라서 저희가 주로 받는 질문은 그 시점의 트렌드와 굉장히 그 많은 그 높은 관계가 있습니다. 생성형 AI에 대해서 기업들의 그 관점의 변화를 좀 보게 되면요, 2023년도는 그야말로 POC, 그 개념 증명을 위한 그 과제에 대해서, 시범 과제에 대해서 많이 물어보시고 준비를 했던 그런 한 해였던 것 같고요. 그리고 2023년도에 저희가 주로 받았던 질문은 생성형 AI가 무엇인가, 그리고 어떤 모델이 가장 좋은가, 이런 질문들을 주로 하셨던 것 같아요. 이에 반해서 2024년도에는 저희가 조금 다른 질문을 받기 시작합니다. 그 질문은 뭐냐면 어떤 모델이 뭐 가성비가 있는가, 우리가 이렇게 그 생성형 AI를 활용하고 싶은데 어떻게 최적으로 아키텍처를 구현할 수 있는가, 이런 질문들을 주로 받게 됩니다. 결국에는 그 실제로 적용을 하기 위해서 필수적으로 고민을 해야 했던 가성비나 보안, 그리고 전체 아키텍처 관점으로 고민을 본격화했던 한 해였던 것 같습니다. 그리고 2025년 올해는 어떻게 되고 있을까요? 올해는 많은 기업들이 뭐 새로운 기술들을 또 물어보게 되죠. 에이전틱 AI를 구현하는 방법이 어떻게 되는 것인가, 그리고 비즈니스를 혁신하기 위해서는 어떻게 해야 되는가, 그리고 생성형 AI를 도입했을 때 성과 측정이 가능한가, 어떻게 그것을 알 수가 있는가, 이런 질문들을 하기 시작합니다. 좀 더 높은 차원의 그런 질문을 주로 받고 있습니다. 생성형 AI를 그 관련돼서 제가 이제 고객사들을 만나 뵈면서 한결과 같이 똑같은 질문들을 많이 듣고, 또 한결과 같은 똑같은 표현들을 듣고 있는데, 많은 고객사 여러분들이 우리 회사에 자비스를 도입하고 싶다, 이런 얘기를 많이 하세요. 아이언맨에 나오는 그 자비스를 얘기하는 겁니다. 그래서 그 자비스, 뭐 나만을 위한 비서실장 같은 거를 생성형 AI한테 기대를 하고 그거를 만들고 싶다, 이런 얘기를 많이 하시는 것 같더라고요. 근데 왜 그럴까 좀 생각을 해보고 그 기대하는 바가 무엇인지를 한번 정리를 해봤습니다. 그래서 정리를 해보니 첫 번째로 제가 어떤 얘기를 하더라도 잘 이해를 하고 특정 용어를 잘 이해하고 그리고 자연스럽게 표현을 하는 걸 원하는 것 같고요. 그리고 우리 정보를 안전하게 연결을 하고 또 그거를 가지고 이제 탁월하게 분석을 하는 걸 원하시는 것 같습니다. 그리고 그뿐만이 아니라 그 분석된 정보를 가지고 뭔가 이제 그 분석하고 끝나는 게 아니라 필요한 사항을 실행할 수 있는 실행 역량도 굉장히 중요하게 생각한다는 것을 알 수가 있습니다. 다시 한번 좀 표현을 해보면은 용어를 이해하고 구사하는 능력, 그리고 정보를 연계하는 그 능력, 그리고 분석하는 능력과 그리고 실행할 수 있는 그런 능력들을 원하는 걸로 보이고 있습니다. 생성형 AI에 대해서 기업 니즈를 잠깐 말씀을 드렸는데, 그럼 AWS는 어떻게 지금 준비를 하고 있는지 한번 설명을 드릴게요. 작년 12월 달에 저희가 1년마다 한 번씩 하는 굉장히 큰 그 행사입니다. 연간 컨퍼런스인데 리인벤트에서 발표된 내용들을 위주로 한번 설명을 해보겠습니다. 작년 12월 달에 발표된 내용을 보면은 전체 그 클라우드 관점에서 보게 되면은 AI 시대를 감안한 서비스 고도화, 규모 지속 확대에 대한 메시지를 분명히 보실 수가 있고요. 그 다음에 데이터인 AI 관점으로 한번 보게 되면은 데이터나 애널리틱스나 AI 같은 부분이 그 하나의 그런 별도의 그 과정이 아니라 통합된 개발 환경을 제공하는 게 굉장히 중요하다는 걸 알 수가 있었고, 그 대표적인 서비스가 아마존 세이지메이커 유니파이드 스튜디오입니다. 그렇다면 이 생성형 AI와 머신러닝 부분을 좀 보게 되면요, 그 특히 베드락 위주로 보게 되면은 뭐 모델 선택 폭을 확대한다거나 그리고 데이터를 자동으로 쉽게 연결할 수 있는 이런 역량들, 그리고 안전하게 구현할 수 있는 그런 기능들하고 실행 역량, 이런 부분들을 굉장히 강조했다는 것을 아실 수가 있습니다. 그래서 다시 이제 앞에서 제가 그 기업들이 기대하는 그런 요소를 말씀드렸고, 방금 전 슬라이드에서는 AWS가 새로운 기술들을 어떤 형태로 개발을 하고 지금 우리가 그 기업들 저희 고객들에게 내놓을지에 대해서 메시지가 분명히 있었는데요. 그 두 가지를 보시면 굉장히 유사하다는 걸 아실 수가 있어요. 그래서 우리가 기업들이 기대하는 요소와 그리고 AWS가 제공하는 그런 기술들이 방향이 매우 유사하다라고 좀 보시면 될 것 같고, 예를 들면 아마존 노바 같은 그런 모델들은 가성비가 높으면서 최적화가 가능한 그런 신규 모델을 추가해서 파운데이션 모델 최적화를 사용을 지원하고, 그리고 예를 들어서 베드락 데이터 오토메이션 같은 경우에는 뭐 이미지라든지 테이블이라든지 이런 부분들까지 포함해서 우리의 데이터를 쉽게 연결하고 생성형 AI를 구현할 수 있게끔 도와주는 게 그 예시라고 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 생성형 AI는 기존의 그 머신러닝보다 굉장히 훨씬 더 다양한 컨텐츠를 생성할 수 있는 특징이 있죠. 그래서 이로 인해서 기존보다 더 큰 그 비즈니스 효과를 불러일으킬 수 있는 잠재력을 보여주고 있습니다. 잘 아시는 것처럼 생성형 AI는 뭐 자료를 정리하기도 하고 분석하고 초안을 만들어주기도 하고 업무의 생산성을 높여주기도 하고요. 인사이트를 굉장히 강화시켜줄 수도 있습니다. 그리고 이러한 인사이트 정보를 기반으로 최종 고객과 소통할 수 있는 더 매력적인 방법을 창출을 하기도 합니다. 생성형 AI 기술은 창조 영역에서도 그 장점을 발휘를 하죠. 그래서 대화나 이미지나 영상이라든지 이런 부분들에 대해서 굉장히 그 다양한 형태로 새로운 컨텐츠들을 만들어내주는 굉장히 적합하고 독보적인 기술이라고 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 이러한 생성형 AI 기술 기반으로 기업들이 활용한 사례의 키워드를 한번 좀 보려고 하는데요. 2023년도는 주로 저희가 받았던 질문과 저희가 이제 봤던 그런 고객 사례들을 보면은 거의 이제 검색 증강 생성 RAG 이미 많은 분들이 알고 계실 거예요. 그 키워드가 굉장히 대세를 이뤘고, 제가 이제 만나는 고객사 중에서 RAG를 사용하지 않는 고객을 제가 본 적이 없을 정도로 거의 필수적인 기법이 이제 자리매김을 했습니다. 2024년도는 멀티모달 그 기능이 본격적으로 나오는 한 해였죠. 그래서 이미지를 이해하는 모델들이 등장을 하고 이런 이미지를 이해하는 모델의 새로운 역량을 통해서 우리 자사에 있는 페인 포인트를 제거하는 부분부터 적용을 하거나, 또는 원래 없었던 텍스트만 이해했던 그런 능력이 아니라 이제 이미지까지 이해하는 그런 능력으로 새로운 능력을 넣어서 새로운 서비스를 만들어내는 그런 사례들이 발생을 하고 있습니다. 그리고 2025년도를 한번 볼게요. 2025년도는 에이전트의 이제 해인 것 같습니다. 에이전트에 관련돼서 굉장히 많은 분들이 물어보고 계시고, 그 에이전틱 AI, 에이전트를 어떻게 구현할 것인가에 대해서 그 기대치와 그리고 관심도는 굉장히 증가를 하고 있고요. 워크플로우에 대한 자동화부터 지금 적용이 되고 있는 그런 특징을 보이고 있습니다. AWS는 세 가지 스택의 생성형 AI 서비스와 인프라를 제공을 하고 있습니다. 가장 아래에 있는 스택은 기업들이 AI 모델을 직접 훈련하고 추론할 수 있는 그런 서비스와 애플리케이션 서비스를 와 인프라를 제공하는 그런 영역이고요. GPU 장비들이 그 예시입니다. 그리고 가운데 스택은 기업들이 다양한 AI 모델을 활용해서 기업을 위한 애플리케이션을 만들 수 있는 도와주는 그런 도구의 영역입니다. 그리고 그 도구에서 가장 대표적인 서비스가 아마존 베드락이고요. 베드락은 지금 오늘 그 생성형 AI 트랙에서 계속 그 활용 사례가 언급이 되고 소개가 될 예정이니까 아마 주의 깊게 보시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 그리고 가장 그 위에 있는 스택은 AI 모델을 활용하는 애플리케이션 단이고요. 기업들이 많은 개발을 별도로 하지 않고 애플리케이션 형태로 쓸 수 있는, 그리고 비즈니스와 IT 개발에 도움을 받는 그런 생성형 AI 애플리케이션인 아마존 Q라고 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 그래서 오늘 그 여기서 진행되는 그 생성형 AI 트랙에서는 방금 말씀드렸던 그 세 가지 스택에 관련된 그 한국 기업의 사례를 소개를 할 예정입니다. 가장 아래에 있는 그 영역은 AI 모델을 직접 훈련하고 추론할 수 있는 그런 기술 중에 하나인 세이지메이커 하이퍼팟을 이용한 그 트레블랩스의 AI 인프라 고도화 여정을 설명을 드릴 예정이고요. 그리고 가운데 있는 그 아마존 베드락 부분에 대해서는 당근페이에서 이를 기반으로 구축된 텍스트 SQL의 데이터 혁신과 핀테크 성공 전략을 설명을 드릴 예정입니다. 그리고 대한항공에서는 AI 컨택센터, 지식검색, 체포 사례 역시 설명을 드립니다. 마지막으로 LG전자에서는 가장 위에 있는 스택이죠. 가장 위에 있는 스택이고 LG전자에서는 아마존 Q를 기반으로 그 차세대 BI 구축 여정의 그 경험을 설명을 드릴 예정입니다. 다양한 기술들이 그 활용된 고객 사례를 준비했으니까 이를 기반으로 많은 인사이트를 얻어가시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 네, 그럼 지금부터는 기업들 관점에서 생성형 AI를 어떻게 접근해야 할지, 그리고 각 도입 단계에 따른 제원 사항과 시사점은 어떻게 되는지에 대해서 AWS 월드와이드 스페셜리스트 조직에서 AI ML 부문의 솔루션즈 아키텍트를 총괄하시는 슬라빅 디미트로비치님께서 설명을 해주실 예정입니다. 슬라빅님 부탁드립니다. 환영의 박수 부탁드립니다.
In the first 18 months of the generative AI era, everybody was so excited that they were willing to throw any resources at it without asking too many questions. But in the second half of 2024, a new question emerged, and it's been growing louder every month. Where is the value? It turned out that getting tangible business value out of this very promising technology proven more difficult than we had anticipated. The good news is that a lot of these challenges are self-inflicted, which means there is something we can do about them. And so in this session, I would like to dive deeper into the challenges faced by customers trying to get value out of generative AI and what can be done about them. A typical AI workload starts as a proof of concept, or POC. If successful, it gets deployed to production. Now, if that is successful, now we have an opportunity to gain adoption from the target audience. And if they do adopt it, then there is finally a chance to realize the value. Now, this workflow isn't unique to AI. It's just worth repeating. However, what is unique to AI is the high failure rate at every stage of this flow. Now, again, the good news, most of it is self-inflicted. So let's dive deeper into every stage, the hurdles faced at that stage, and what can be done to overcome them. While there are many different ways to measure success of an individual POC, when I look across all Gen AI POCs, across all customers, geographies, and industries, one way of defining success at that rate and that scale is percentage of POCs that customers deploy in production. And based on my empirical evidence working with hundreds and thousands of customers around the world, at least 70% of AI POCs end up like this. Now, there may be a learning value in a POC, even if it's not successful, but let's face it, majority of businesses start POCs because they hope to get some value out of it. So let us take a look at some of the hurdles that prevent POCs from succeeding. Number one, may be obvious, but pause and think about your latest AI POC. Can you clearly articulate the success criteria? If I independently ask every member of your team, will they agree on the same success criteria? What about external stakeholders? What about executive sponsor? Overconfidence is a big problem in AI space. I see too many teams taking on a POC that far exceeds their technical capabilities. Related to it is mismatch between the technology that the teams choose and the POC, making it unnecessarily difficult for them to succeed. And last but not least, while POCs are experiments, in the end, the goal is to explore the possibility of delivering the value. And I see too many teams chasing what's cool, not what's helpful. So what can you do about it to increase the success rate of your POCs? Well, one is have a clearly defined, measurable success criteria up front and have all members of your team as well as stakeholders agree on that success criteria. Eliminate the variables. Your POC is difficult enough and prone to failure. Narrow the focus only on what you need to explore and use ready-to-use component frameworks and tools for everything else. Be very deliberate where you deploy your rare and expensive AI talent. Just because they can do everything doesn't mean they should. Question everything that doesn't directly relate to success criteria of a POC. Yes, it may be exciting. It doesn't mean you need to do it. Now let's take a quick look at what AWS can do to help. First, Sonso already mentioned, we have a rich set of tools. I'm not going to go into this in detail. I just want to remind you, these tools are there to help you succeed with your POCs. Use them to reduce the time and increase the probability of success. Choice of models matter. Going back to choosing the right technology for the right POC. If you start with the right model, you're far more likely to succeed. Having broad choice of good models makes it easier for you to cover broad range of POCs. And finally, don't do it alone. AWS have had prototyping teams since 2016 working with our customers to help them succeed with their POCs in various areas. Since Gen AI kicked in, we invested multiple millions of dollars into a special kind of prototyping we call Gen AI Innovation Center that focuses with customers on the most technically challenging Gen AI POCs. Work with us to help improve your POCs and increase their chance to succeed. Now, let's say you followed all these practices and your POC is successful. Congratulations, you're not out of the woods yet. Deploying it to production will be the next major hurdle. Those of us who tried deploying AI systems in productions always feel like this. A lot of effort, unclear outcomes. Why is that? What are the main hurdles? Well, first hurdle is the technology choices and architecture choices you made for POC will not scale into production. It's okay to take shortcuts when you do a POC. It's a mistake to take the same set of assumptions, the same architecture, and try to scale it into production. It may be acceptable to pick the small, clean set of your data for POC. But when you go into production, you'll have to deal with all of it, good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's where often the POCs fail. Another one is operations. Again, it may be acceptable to use duct tape and rope to put together something that has an exciting demo effect. But when you go into production, everything has to be integrated, instrumented, and automated. And this one sneaks up on you. You don't anticipate it until it hits you. I see too many Gen AI systems fully built, ready to be deployed, sitting there because they cannot get security, compliance, or legal approval. It's so prevalent that I start calling these teams no. And it is important to anticipate this in advance. Now, what you can do about this? What can you do to improve the probability of deploying in production successfully? Be mindful of all three dimensions of a system. Right? While it might have been acceptable to use the latest, greatest, most sophisticated model during your experiment, going into production with the same model will likely be the wrong thing to do. It will prove to be too slow or too expensive or both. Getting data into a good shape is actually very difficult. So instead, what I suggest is for the first cohort of your POCs, focus on the area where the data is already good, while at the same time investing in making the rest of your data more AI ready. We are in Gen AI currently, in AI today, in probably similar spot that we were with the internet in the early 2000s. We're experimenting on a grand scale and also dealing with a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity. What helped us then can help us now as well. Embrace agile. Build cross-functional teams that incrementally deliver value in short iterations. And make sure that you include on those teams all the relevant stakeholders, including representatives from legal, compliance, and other teams know. Another thing that would be helpful is consider some of the technical hurdles that can block you on the way to production and front load them into your POC phase to see if you could explore them earlier. Because if you fail early, your cost is lower, your speed of learning is higher. Now, if your system succeeds in production, it will have to contend with these three dimensions: complexity, time, and scale. Every use case you add, every user persona you add, every new feature increases complexity. Increased complexity increases the failure rate. Increase in user volume, increase in data volume will force you to scale your system. The architectural assumptions that worked with smaller scale will start quickly failing at higher scale. Again, higher failure rate. and time. The only constant is change. Code changes, data drifts, model evolve, people move on. And every one of those changes increases the rate of failure. Let's take a look at very simple RAG system. Seems simple enough, but let's now apply all those dimensions here. You need to add a few new data sources. You change complexity, the failure rate increases. You have more users, or you need to process and index more data. Scale, failure rate increases. And time. Imagine the model that does the embeddings will evolve. Model that produces output will evolve. Underlying data will continue to change. Code that stitches it all together will continue to change. Prompt templates will need to be updated. Getting dizzy yet? And this is just the simplest system. Now, you cannot, the thing about all these things is that there is no compression algorithm for experience. The only way you could get that, there are only two ways. One, through your own trial and error, or two, by building on the trial and error experience of others. AWS has done a lot of trial and error for you already, and we share with you the benefits of that in the form of tools, managed services, and best practices. You don't have the luxury of the same trial and error because you don't have a way of monetizing it. You have a lot less time and patience of your leaders that you may think. They may be supportive today, but in no time, they will turn to impatient and angry, and they will start asking questions. And then you will turn from a technology hero to someone who will have to answer for all the time and money wasted. Not a good place to be. So do yourself a favor. Do not reinvent the wheel. Remember, you don't have as much time and management patience as you think you do. All right. And if the clicker worked, would have been nice. So AWS has invested a lot of time and a lot of effort into perfecting the way of hosting complex systems in the cloud. And AI systems are just a special kind of software system. So many of the things that apply to software systems apply here. So AWS gives you tools for working with data, AI, software, and operations. Use them. Do not reinvent the wheel. You don't have the luxury of trial and error. Models can make or break your project. And while it was acceptable to use the same model for all tasks in POC, when you go into production, it is far more helpful to break your workload into individual tasks and pick the model that is best for each individual task, which usually means smallest, fastest, cheapest model that is good enough to do the job. Many of our customers found that when you think about optimizing at the task level, Nova models provide very good price performance. It's our own family of models, and it was specifically optimized for price performance, for customization, and for multimodality. We're just getting started, so you can expect new versions of existing models and new models with additional modalities, additional capabilities. Additional benefits of Nova models is they're responsible AI by design, which means they're safer, they're more controllable, which is why we give indemnification of their output. And they're natively integrated with Bedrock tools, particularly knowledge bases, agents, and guardrails. Again, less plumbing for your AI engineers to do. Side note, all the images in this presentation have been generated by Nova models. Now, security. Security of generative AI is an extension of security of any software system. So the same rules apply, plus the new concerns that are specific to generative AI. AWS has built strong reputation for security. Our track record speaks for itself, which is why many security-sensitive organizations, governments, financial services, healthcare, hosting their systems on AWS. And the same rules will apply to AI. Operations. While generative AI is revolutionary from the point of view of AI, from the point of view of operations, it's more of an evolution. And it builds on the shoulders of strong ML operation practices established by the ML practitioners of the last decade. And AWS has been hosting the largest number of ML workloads in the industry. So we're taking all that expertise and we're extending it to now work with the generative AI. Another thing to consider is DevOps and CloudOps. Again, AI systems are just special kind of software systems. So all the rules of CloudOps and DevOps apply to them, but with AI twist. So again, AWS has been de facto standard for working with AI systems and for establishing CloudOps and DevOps practices. Use that. Use it to your advantage. Do not reinvent the wheel. My apologies, I caught a cold on my flight here. And of course, all these rules don't just apply to the AI systems that you've been trying to build over the last 24 months. They also apply to the new shiny world of agents. This is a basic agentic flow, seems simple enough, but once you start deploying it to production, you start thinking about observability. You start thinking about evaluation. Now, agents need to be thought of as digital teammates, which means they need to learn, they need to receive feedback, they will make mistakes, and will need to learn over time. Right? So as you start taking an agent into production, things get complicated. And now you never stop with one agent. You usually deploy dozens, maybe hundreds. And you also want to increase the level of autonomy over time. And then you add on top of it those three dimensions: complexity, scale, and time. Do you really want to manage all of this? Do you have the luxury of trial and error required to get the expertise to manage all of this? No, you don't. So again, do yourself a favor. Do not reinvent the wheel. Rely on the tools of others where you can. And AWS is investing heavily into agentic tools to make this job easier for you. For the enterprises, we provide ready-to-use agents that can be used as is or customized if you need. For developers, we're providing a rich tool set for building, deploying, and scaling high quality, high security agents at large scale. Our tools are integrated with all the leading open source frameworks as well as third-party agentic frameworks. And last but not least, AWS professional services and our partners have developed extensive expertise in managing, deploying high complexity software systems. We're now taking that expertise and extending it to generative AI. Again, look at your own in-house skills objectively. Understand their limitations, understand where you need to partner with others, and know that you can trust AWS professional services and AWS partners to get you into production. Now, let's say you've used all these best practices, you've partnered with all the right teams, you deployed in production. Can you declare a success? Unfortunately not. The system that is deployed in production, well maintained, and that nobody uses is still a failure. Way too often, we see that this hard-won victory of deploying AI system into production leads to nothing because customers initially have that spike of curiosity and then go back to doing things the way they were. Why is that? What are some of the main blockers? Well, the first one is that most AI systems that I see failing in adoption were a reflection of the curiosity and ambition of the creator. They really weren't thinking much about the needs of end users. The second reason is sometimes the system did provide value to end users, but the end users have strong inertia. Particularly if they're skilled workers and they hone their skill, they find it difficult to rewire and change the way they do things. Another thing is sometimes people are worried. They know that the cost of labor is significant, and they know that companies look for efficiency, and they're worried that if AI is successful, that may come at the expense of their jobs. And finally, another thing that we notice is the success metrics are outdated, right? So you deploy AI system, but you measure the success of your employees using the old ways. And so they have no incentive of using AI system or sticking with it, other than initial curiosity. So what can you do about it? Well, first, what I found is AI adoption goes much easier if AI is focused on doing tasks that are important, but that people really don't want to be doing, right? Think the most obvious area where AI is applied today, software development. When AI generates code, lukewarm adoption because developers love writing code. When AI is used to generate tests or documentation, much easier adoption because it's important, but developers don't like doing it. The second one is fostering internal champions. What we found worked really well is if highly respected peers get value out of AI and then share peer-to-peer, has tremendous effect. To further accelerate adoption, what we see is leading by example. If leadership adopts AI and then is very loud about it and shares with the rest of the org how they get value out of AI, it accelerates it and it excites others to repeat that. And finally, invest in your humans. Be vocal and proactive about investment you're doing to make sure that people understand that they stand to gain from adopting the AI, not stand to lose. Now, what AWS can help? Well, one of the things that we developed internally at Amazon is the system we call working backwards, where you try to visualize value delivered to the end users and work backward from it. It increases the probability that the system, the product you ship, will get adoption. Another thing, you cannot manage what you cannot measure. AWS and its partners provide you a rich set of instrumentation tool to measure everything and adjust as you go. It's smart to learn from your own mistake, but it's wiser to learn from mistakes of others. AWS, working with millions of customers, can see patterns that no individual customer consulting firm or industry analyst can do, and we're glad to share that with you. And finally, when we realized that adoption is one of the main blockers, we invested within GenAI Innovation Center into a program that helps customers create their own internal center of acceleration to help them spread AI within the company faster. And so working backwards is one of the things that was very helpful to Amazon. And when we see that our customers are struggling with adoption of their AI systems, we made it available to the customer in the form of a workshop, so that customers can learn from this and apply it in their own with their own product. All right, so you've used all these best practices. You have the system deployed in production and widely used. Congratulations, but if the system is widely used but doesn't generate value, it's still a failure. And we are beginning to see the cases where the systems are in production, they get adoption, and the customers are considering pulling the plug because they just drain resources with no clear value. And so the same leaders who were very excited about it and pushing their technical teams, get me Gen AI, are now turning angry and impatient. And the project leaders who were too careless to just go along for a ride and focus on technology, forgetting the business value, are now finding themselves in a very, very uncomfortable situation. So what are some of the reasons? Well, the most obvious reason is value was never clearly defined up front or was hard to measure. The other reason is value was defined up front, was clear to measure, but as the adoption grew, the cost started growing faster than the value. The other one was that the measures of success were wrong. The measure of success were pre-AI, and so when you apply the same measure of success to post-AI workload, it makes it look like it doesn't deliver value, where in fact it does. And the last one is the process is too rigid. So the system is fine, technically speaking. It actually delivers the value, but the process is rigid, so it cannot do that thing that it would have done otherwise because it's constrained by the current process. So what can you do on your end? Well, first, I think when you prioritize your POCs, you should always think about what we call value hypothesis. Can you articulate the value that this POC will deliver if successful? And if you can't, don't even start. Then, when you have this value hypothesis, try to front load it. Try to test it early. So turn your POC into POV, from proof of concept to proof of value. As you architect your system to production, remember cost. You need to build cost-aware architectures. Now, this was true for the cloud as well. However, it is even more true for AI because of how quickly cost can go up. It can sneak up on you very unexpectedly. And finally, embrace continuous improvement. This is high ambiguity area, which means you're very likely to get it wrong first time, but if you stick with it, and if you have the patience and the attitude and the mindset of continuous improvement, you're far more likely to succeed eventually. Now, how AWS can help? One of the frameworks we developed in the early days of the cloud called Well Architected, because at that time, doing cloud right was difficult. And we're now extending it to Gen AI because we feel that in the Gen AI era today, we are about the same place where we were with cloud 10 years ago. And sometimes getting getting handle on cost, the best way to do it is to get a lower price. And we recognize that cost can be a challenge for customers, so we introduce a whole set of financial incentive for the customers to build AI workloads on AWS or to migrate them over. Just ask your account team for it. Okay, so these are the main stages. And this is where we just covered the hurdles that are in the way. So let us now consider how Amazon uses AI. Now, one thing important to remember, Amazon operates at great scale, great speed. At this scale and speed, every mistake has enormous consequences. So there are just three simplest examples of what you could already experience if you're an Amazon customer. Rufus, it can help you find the right product by starting with a set of preferences. Customer reviews is what made Amazon so successful early on, but now they're in hundreds. Reviewing them isn't practical, so we summarize them for you. And pharmacy, that's one of the most common challenges in the pharmacy world is prescription filling. And the AI makes it easier, faster, cheaper, lower error rate. Now, so far we've been talking about consumption of AI, but some of you may have aspiration to train your own model. When we talk that AI is an expensive toolbox, well, training is the most expensive tool in that toolbox. And we may be happy to hear that we're partnering with Anthropic on a new supercluster that will be based on hundreds of thousands of our custom AI chips, Trainium 2, and will produce hundreds of exaflops of compute power, which means that for those using Claude models, they will get better models, faster, cheaper, and we will pass all the learnings from training those models to those of you who want to train their own models. Now, let's just recap. So, start with the value hypothesis, prioritize your POCs based on that value hypothesis, and front load it so that you can experiment with that value proposition early, turning your proof of concept into proof of value, and also front load all other hurdles that you expect on the way to production, adoption, and value realization. Rediscover Agile, build Agile cross-functional team, and embrace continuous improvement. Let them deliver value incrementally in short iterations. Instrument everything. Instrument your systems so you could track operations. Instrument adoption metrics, usage metrics, so you could improve adoption. Instrument your business processes so you can measure the value. Pay attention to adoption. It doesn't happen by itself. You have to drive it. Foster your champions and lead by example. And sometimes healthy top-down pressure helps. Be ready to change your success metrics, your processes, and if necessary, even org design. Invest in your humans. Make sure they understand they stand to gain from AI, not lose from it. Stay focused. Everything that doesn't lead to value realization is probably a distraction. Use your rare and expensive AI talent very carefully. Just because they could do everything doesn't mean they should. Do not reinvent the wheel. Don't do it alone. Partner with us. We and our partners can help you get there. And of course, all of this applies not only to AI, but also to this world of agents. So this is a list of best practices as a list, in case you want to take a picture. And thank you very much for being here. I hope you found it useful and enjoy the rest of your summit. Also, please remember to provide feedback. Thank you very much.